My husband and his mom thought the house was theirs until they threatened me with divorce. If someone had told me 3 years ago that my husband would threaten me with divorce while his mother cheered him on from across the table, I would have laughed in disbelief. Not Todd. Not my Todd, the same man who called me his angel, who said I saved him, who once cried in the rain when I said I loved him. But here I was, sitting at the breakfast bar in our kitchen, with him and his mother both looking at me like I was some stranger who'd overstayed her welcome in my own home. And I swear to you, they really thought the house belonged to them. Let me start from the beginning. My name's Hannah Wells, 34, born and raised in Boise, Idaho. Small city girl, big dreams, too much heart for my own good. I grew up with a single mom, Susan Matthews, who worked double shifts at the county hospital and still found time to attend every school play, every dance recital, every late-night panic attack about boys or exams or life in general. We didn't have money. We didn't have much. But we had each other. And that made everything feel full. I met Todd Wells at a company retreat when I was 26. He worked in the sales department, loud and confident and way too charming. I remember thinking, this guy is exactly the kind of trouble I swore I'd stay away from. But charm is a funny thing. When it's pointed directly at you, day after day, it feels like sunlight. Within a year, we were married. A quick courthouse wedding, a small celebration in his mom's backyard. And from the start, his mother, Nancy Wells, made it clear I was now part of their family, not mine. Before we go further, don't forget to like this story, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what happens next. The first time she said it, I thought she meant it kindly. By the 5th time, I understood what she really meant. It started subtly. Nancy would come over uninvited, just to help with dinner, and then remake the entire meal, throwing away anything I'd already started. She'd refold the laundry I had already done, reorganize the fridge, comment on my cheap Target candles, or the weird way I hung pictures. Todd never stopped her. He just smiled and said things like, "She's just being helpful. Let her be, babe. She gets lonely. She raised me, you know." Yeah, I know. I could tell. After 2 years of marriage, I started noticing the shift. Todd stopped saying we and started saying I. He became more critical, less affectionate. If I had an idea, he had a better one. If I expressed frustration, I was being dramatic. We had a daughter, Lily, who became my whole world. Todd was a good dad in public. Pictures, outings, social media smiles. But at home, the charm slipped. He'd disappear into his office for hours. He stopped asking how my day was. And Nancy? She started calling the house Todd's place. I should have spoken up. But you know how it is. You keep brushing off the red flags until the wind knocks you over. And in my case, the storm hit the day my mother died. She had been sick for a while. Cancer. The kind that creeps in and builds a home in the bones. She didn't tell me how bad it had gotten until it was too late. By the time I drove down to see her, she was in hospice, barely able to whisper my name. She died holding my hand. Her last words were, "Live for you now, Hannah. Please." That wrecked me. But she left me something. A letter. And a deed. Turns out, she had bought a property outside McCall, near the lake. Something she'd saved for with every paycheck she'd ever stretched. A 2-bedroom cabin with a wraparound porch and a view that could pull tears from the most jaded eyes. It was worth close to $2 million. And it was now in my name. No one else's. When I told Todd, he lit up. Suddenly, he was attentive again. Planning trips. Calling contractors. Talking about investments and remodels and expanding the living room. But here's the kicker. He never asked what I wanted. He just assumed. Because in his head, what's mine is ours, and what's his is his. Nancy, of course, started telling her friends about her son's lake house. And when I corrected her once, politely, she gave me the smile of a Southern woman holding a knife behind her back and said, "Well, honey, I'm sure your name is just on it for legal stuff." That's when I started making notes, keeping receipts, saving messages. Not because I planned anything, but because something inside me was whispering that I might need them one day. And then came the divorce threat. I was in the kitchen making Lily a sandwich when Todd walked in with Nancy trailing behind him like a bad smell. "We need to talk," he said. I turned around. He was holding a folder. Nancy was smirking. And I already knew. "I think it's time we took a break," he said. "You've been distant, distracted. You're not the same woman I married. I buried my mother 6 months ago. That's no excuse for freezing me out." Nancy chimed in. "We just want what's best for Lily." And that's when I saw the papers in his hand. Drafted. Prepared. A proposed custody schedule. And in the margins? A handwritten note. Ask about selling the lake house before filing. Split equity? I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just nodded and walked upstairs, because what they didn't know was that the house was already protected. I walked upstairs that day with my pulse pounding in my ears, not from panic, from focus, because they didn't know, they had no idea that I had been quietly preparing for this moment since the second Nancy called at Todd's house. I didn't know then that he'd threatened divorce, but I knew how Todd and his mother operated. They didn't take things, they assumed them, claimed them, entitled themselves to whatever they wanted, and figured I'd just smile and nod and play the supportive wife. But the lake house? That was mine, and I had no intention of losing it. It started 3 months earlier. A call with my mother's estate attorney, Mr. Preston, after the deed officially transferred to my name. Would you like to keep it as is? He asked. Or update the ownership structure? And right then, a thought took root in my brain. A whisper that said, protect yourself. So I asked about trusts. Turns out, there was a way to move the property into a revocable living trust, one where I was the trustee and sole beneficiary. No joint ownership. No marital tie. Fully protected unless I added someone else's name. It was quiet. Legal. Clean. I signed the papers the following week and told no one. So when Todd handed me that divorce folder and said, we need to figure out a fair way to split the lake property, I took a breath, looked him dead in the eye, and said, you mean my house? He blinked. Come on, Hannah. We're married. Everything is shared. I smiled, and God, it felt good. It was gifted solely to me, and I put it in a trust under my name. Months ago. He opened his mouth to argue, then froze. Nancy leaned forward, her voice sharp. You what? I protected it, I said calmly. Just in case. You didn't tell Todd? She snapped. No, I said. Because it wasn't his. The silence was thick. Todd's face turned a shade of red I hadn't seen since the day Lily drew on the wall, and he exploded like a kettle left too long on the stove. But we were gonna remodel it together, he stammered. You were gonna remodel my house with my inheritance and then file for divorce. I tilted my head. Do you think I'm stupid? Nancy muttered something under her breath, but I cut her off before she could weaponize it. Save it. This is exactly why my mom put it in writing. Because she knew. She knew you two would try something like this. I walked past them and picked up Lily from the couch. Let me make something very clear, I said. You want to file? Go ahead. You want to threaten custody? I'll bring receipts to court of every time I raised our daughter while Todd worked late playing poker with his college buddies. Todd tried to interrupt. I raised my voice, just slightly. And if you want to keep playing games, I'll file first. And I'll bring up the time you transferred $5,000 from our joint account into yours without telling me. I'll bring up Nancy's loans that were never repaid. I'll bring up everything. He fell quiet, because he knew I wasn't bluffing. For the next few days, the house was awkward. He moved into the guest room. Nancy stopped dropping by unannounced. I think they thought I'd cool off, that I'd eventually cave, that I was just emotional. But instead, I got organized. I hired a lawyer, a damn good one. Elena Carter, sharp, experienced, and not afraid of a little courtroom drama. We sat down at her office with coffee and paperwork spread out like battle plans. You've already done half the work, she said after looking over the trust and estate docs. But I want full custody, I said. And I want to protect Lily from this mess. She nodded. Then we go clean. We go smart. And we go fast. Meanwhile, Todd tried to talk things out. He sent me flowers. Bought Lily toys. Cooked dinner once. Classic damage control. You sure you want to go nuclear over this? He said one night, leaning against the kitchen island. I looked at him. I'm not going nuclear. You handed me the button. He still thought he could manipulate the narrative. That if he just stayed calm, acted like he was the reasonable one, he'd win the sympathy vote. With me, with Lily, with the courts. But what he didn't realize, I had already started keeping a timeline. Every incident, every transfer, every weird thing Nancy said about my parenting, every time Todd missed Lily's events, every time he showed up late reeking of whiskey and bad excuses. It wasn't about revenge. It was about protecting myself and my daughter. Then he made a mistake. He went to my boss. I came into work one morning to find an email from HR flagged as urgent. Subject line, unscheduled visitor, clarification required. Turns out, Todd showed up at my office building. Claimed he was there to drop off lunch, but ended up asking questions. About my hours, my role, my salary. He was trying to dig, trying to find something he could twist. I called my lawyer. Document it, she said. And if he tries it again, we'll include workplace harassment in the filing. I sent a written complaint to HR. They flagged his name. Security was informed. And Todd? He didn't try that again. But the damage to his case was already done. That weekend, I packed a bag and took Lily to the lake house. Just the two of us. We sat on the porch, eating mac and cheese from paper bowls, watching the sunset reflect off the water like melted gold. "Mom," Lily asked, "is Daddy coming too?" I paused. "No, sweetie. Not this time." She didn't ask again, just leaned against me and sighed. Good. And in that moment, I knew I was doing the right thing, not just for me, but for her. Because sometimes the best thing a parent can do is show their child what not to accept. If you've ever had someone come for your child, not your money, not your house, not even your marriage, but your child, then you know what I felt the moment I got that envelope. The heavy, thick kind of envelope. Legal-sized. From a courthouse. I opened it in my kitchen while Lily was coloring dinosaurs at the table. And the second I saw the words "petition for emergency custody review," my hands started shaking. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew exactly who filed it. Nancy Wells. My mother-in-law had gone behind everyone's back, including her own son, and filed paperwork to take custody of Lily. In the documents, she claimed, I was emotionally unstable, I had cut Todd out of Lily's life, Lily was showing signs of trauma under my sole care, and the best part? That Nancy had been a consistent caregiver since birth. I almost choked on my own breath when I read that last line. Consistent caregiver? She once forgot to pick Lily up from daycare because she was getting her nails done. Another time, she fed Lily nothing but leftover shrimp for 2 days when I was sick with the flu. But now she wanted to play the saint? She picked the wrong woman to mess with. I called Elena, my lawyer. I need to go scorched earth, I said. She didn't hesitate. I'll file our response by morning. And Hannah, we'll bury this. 2 weeks later, we were in court. Family court in Boise isn't some grand marble column courthouse. It's a small beige building with buzzing lights and judges who've seen every kind of ugly you can imagine. Nancy wore a blue pantsuit like she thought she was heading to a press conference. Todd wasn't there. Smart move on his part. I sat with Elena, calm but boiling just beneath the surface. And when the judge called us up, Nancy launched into her performance like she'd been rehearsing it in front of a mirror for months. Your Honor, I'm only here because I fear for my granddaughter's emotional well-being. She painted me as cold, distant, mentally unstable. Said Lily cried when she wasn't around. Claimed I isolated her. Then she dropped the dagger. She's using that house as a weapon. She's manipulating Todd, keeping him from his child. The judge raised a brow. And that's when Elena stood up, fire in her voice. Your Honor, she said, let's start with the facts. She laid out documentation of my full-time employment and stable income, Lily's preschool attendance and progress reports, pediatrician letters stating Lily was healthy, happy, and safe, text messages from Nancy bragging about not wanting the stress of babysitting, and then the kicker video from our home security system. A clip of Nancy screaming at Lily during a tantrum. You're just like your mother, a little brat who gets whatever she wants. The courtroom went silent. Nancy's face drained of color. The judge leaned forward. Ms. Wells, he said to Nancy, this is not a custody concern. This is personal vendetta, cloaked as protection. She opened her mouth. He raised a hand. Enough. He turned to Elena. Petition denied. Permanently. Then to me, Ms. Wells, do you wish to pursue a no-contact order? I looked over at Nancy. This woman who had tried to take my child. Who smiled at my daughter with sugar in her teeth and poison under her tongue. No, I said. Let her sit in it. Because silence was a better punishment than any paper. After court, she tried to follow me to the parking lot. Hannah, she called out. This wasn't personal. I was trying to help. I turned. No, Nancy. You were trying to win. And now? You've lost. All of it. Then I got in my car and drove straight to the lake house. That night, I poured a glass of wine and sat on the porch, Lily asleep upstairs, the air smelling like pine, and the peace I hadn't felt in years. Todd texted me later. I didn't know she was going to do that. I swear. I didn't respond. Because I didn't care if he knew. I didn't care if he meant well, or if he was just trying to cover his tracks. I was done explaining myself. The next morning, I woke up to an email from Elena, custody fully secured. Divorce mediation scheduled. Let's finish this. And with that, I smiled. Because this wasn't just a victory. It was a warning. You don't come for a woman's child and expect her to stay quiet. Divorce makes people show their true colors. And let me tell you something. Todd Wells's colors weren't just ugly, they were cowardly. After the courtroom beatdown his mother suffered trying to take Lily from me, Todd went strangely quiet. Like he was regrouping. Rethinking his strategy. We were in the middle of divorce mediation now, asset division, custody schedules, financial disclosures, all that exhausting, soul-draining mess. And for a while, it looked like Todd had accepted reality. Until Elena called me one afternoon. You're going to want to sit down, she said. I was already sitting. Todd filed his preliminary financial affidavit, she continued. According to it, he has $12,400 total in assets. I nearly dropped my phone. Excuse me. $12,000. That's all he claims to have. Says his accounts were drained from market losses and living expenses. I blinked. Todd drives a new Silverado and still wears Rolex knockoffs like they're real. Exactly. She sighed. He's hiding something, Hannah. I didn't even hesitate. I'll find it. And I did. In 3 days flat. Because while Todd was trying to play financial shell games, he forgot I was the one who used to handle our tax filings. I started small. Backtracked through our old joint returns from before I moved my account solo. And that's where I saw it. A line item labeled, Trusted Horizon Mutual, external 1099 INT account. It was a brokerage firm we never used together. I Googled the name. Private investment firm in Oregon. Exclusive. Boutique. Hidden. In there, on an old emailed statement from 2 years ago, his name, Todd R. Wells, estimated account value, $89,000. I printed everything. Elena's face when I handed her the file? Pure joy. I almost feel bad for him, she said. I didn't. Not even a little. Mediation resumed 2 days later. This time, Todd swaggered in like he was the calm, collected one. Wore a button-down shirt that still had dry cleaner creases. Nodded at me like we were old coworkers meeting for coffee. The mediator began reviewing the asset declarations. According to Mr. Wells, she said, he currently holds under $13,000 in assets. Ms. Wells, is that your understanding as well? Elena smiled. No, actually. My client has located an account at Trusted Horizon Mutual under Mr. Wells's name. Current valuation is estimated near $90,000. Todd froze. Nancy, who insisted on sitting in the hallway like a court groupie, peeked in and audibly gasped. Todd cleared his throat. That account's not mine anymore. I moved that money to another account in your cousin's name. Elena cut in. We already filed for a subpoena to obtain records. Would you like to amend your affidavit now or face perjury? Checkmate. The mediator scribbled furiously. I watched Todd squirm for a full minute before muttering, I'll update my declaration. But the damage? Already done. He wasn't just facing a more expensive divorce now. He was facing a judge with a file full of proof that he'd lied under oath. That night, he texted me again. You didn't have to go that far. We could have kept it civil. I stared at the screen. Then typed, you started lying the second you thought I wouldn't notice. Civil ended the day you drafted divorce papers before even telling me. The next mediation meeting, Todd didn't say much. He accepted the terms, gave up any claim to the lake house, walked away from the primary custody fight. Because now, he had no leverage. His lies had cost him everything, and the judge hadn't even waiting yet. A week later, Elena and I sat across from the mediator with the final draft of the divorce settlement. I know this has been hell, she said, but you did everything right, Hannah. I nodded, and then signed my name. Hannah Wells, officially divorced, fully in control. And the best part? Not a single cent of my inheritance touched. Later that night, Lily and I made a celebration cake. Just box mix, nothing fancy. Chocolate with extra sprinkles. I let her lick the spoon. We danced in the kitchen to Taylor Swift until our sides hurt from laughing. Because this time, I didn't have to explain my happiness to anyone. But just when I thought the storm had passed, Todd made one last move. And it wasn't about the house or the money. It was about me. You know that feeling when you finally breathe after holding it in for too long? That was me, for the first time in years, after signing the divorce papers. I felt like I had finally stepped out of someone else's shadow and stood in my own skin, unapologetically. The property was mine. Custody was secure. Finances protected. The Wells name? Gone from my records. But people like Todd don't just walk away. They need an audience. And if they can't control you anymore, they try to control how the world sees you. It started with whispers. Colleagues at work glancing a little too long when I passed by. A weird email from an old coworker saying, hey, I hope things are okay. Heard something from someone who knows your ex. Then I heard it. In the break room. 2 of the junior associates chatting. I heard she used her kid to screw him over. Like, full custody and everything. I stepped in quietly. They went white. I didn't say a word. Just grabbed my tea and walked out. But my hands were shaking. Because I knew where it came from. And the confirmation came 2 days later. I was in a Zoom call when I got a Slack message from our receptionist. Hey Hannah, some guy named Todd just walked into the lobby asking to talk to your manager. Said it's urgent and about your character? My heart thudded. He did not. He would not. But he did. I stood up, turned off my camera mid-meeting, and walked straight down to the lobby of our firm. And there he was. In his usual fake business casual attire, hair slicked back like he thought this was a courtroom or a job interview. Standing in front of my boss, Kim Whitaker, our regional team lead. She looked unimpressed. "Ah, Hannah," she said when she saw me. "Your ex-husband was just leaving." Todd turned, smiled. "Just wanted to clear the air. Thought your team should know what kind of person you really are." "Full custody? Frozen assets? Feels a little calculated, don't you think?" I didn't flinch. "Are you finished?" I thought I'd at least try to save your reputation before you get too comfortable." Kim folded her arms. "I've already reviewed everything," she said. He looked confused. "What?" She gestured toward me. "Hannah informed HR months ago about the situation. Full transparency. Your financial history. The court orders. The attempted workplace harassment. All documented." She took a step closer to him. "And just so we're clear, if you ever show up here again, we'll file a restraining order so fast your suit won't catch up." Todd's mouth opened. Nothing came out. I took the opportunity to walk over and say the one thing I'd been saving. "You ruined your life," I said, low and even. "All I did was stop you from ruining mine." He left without another word. "And Kim?" She just smiled at me. "Get back to your meeting," she said. "We've got bigger things to work on." I swear I could have cried. Not from fear. From relief. Because that moment? That was the last time Todd ever tried to come for me. But the damage he tried to inflict lingered. Rumors, no matter how false, leave a mark. So I called an all-team meeting later that week. 5 minutes. No agenda. Just me standing in the conference room. "I know some of you have heard things," I said. "And I'm not here to correct gossip. But I will say this. Yes, I've been through a rough divorce. Yes, I protected my daughter. And yes, I have nothing to be ashamed of." I paused. "If anyone has questions, ask me. But if not, respect my silence." Nobody said a word. Just nods. Respect. And from that moment on, no more whispers. No more looks. Just work. Peace. And quiet. Lily and I started really living after that. Dance classes. Friday night pancakes. Nature walks at the lake house. She was thriving. Smiling more. Sleeping better. And me? I finally saw my reflection and didn't feel like I had to apologize for surviving. But then, the final twist came. A certified letter from a lawyer in a firm I didn't recognize. Not from Todd. Not from Nancy. But from Nancy's estate attorney. Apparently, her health had declined sharply. Cancer. Late stage. And fast. In her will, she left something to Lily. And a letter. One that made my stomach drop when I read the first line. "I know I was a terrible grandmother. I know you'll probably throw this away. But please let Lily read this one day." It came in a plain white envelope. No return address. Just my name. Inside was a cover letter from Nancy's attorney, and behind it, a smaller envelope with handwriting I recognized immediately. Careful, elegant, slightly forced. Nancy Wells. The woman who tried to take my daughter. Who lied in court. Who stood beside her son when he called me broken. Who said my house was just paperwork. She was gone now, and she'd left Lily a letter. The attorney's note said the letter had been dictated during Nancy's final hospital stay, then handwritten by an assistant at her request. No edits. No do-overs. Just her final words. A last chance, maybe, to rewrite how we'd remember her. But I didn't open it. Not right away. I stared at that envelope for days. Kept it in a drawer. Moved it from purse to desk and back again. Because here's the thing. Some things are easier to bury than unearth. A week later, I sat at the lake house with the sun setting over the water, Lily asleep upstairs. I poured a glass of wine. Lit one of those candles she used to say were too cheap smelling. And I opened it. "Dear Lily, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. And that's probably for the best, because if I'm being honest, I don't know that I ever would have said this out loud. I made mistakes. A lot of them. And I hurt people who didn't deserve it. Especially your mother. She loved you more than anything. She gave you the kind of life I never gave my own son. And I hated her for it. Not because she was bad, but because she was better. That's hard to admit. I let pride get in the way. I let fear turn into control. I thought if I held on to Todd and pushed your mother out, I could stay important. Instead, I lost everything. I stopped reading there. Tears ran hot down my face, but not because I forgave her. Because I recognized the truth of it. That toxic kind of love. The kind that clings out of fear. That lashes out instead of reaching out. I'd seen it my whole life. And I promised myself. Lily never would. I kept reading. "Lily, I don't expect you to remember me kindly. I don't deserve that. But I want you to know that I saw you. I watched you grow, even if I failed to grow myself. Your laugh was my favorite sound in the world. And if I could give you anything now, it would be the strength to know when to walk away and when to forgive. Maybe one day, Your mom will let you read this. And maybe she won't. Either way, tell her I was wrong. About all of it. I folded the letter slowly, pressed it to my chest for a long moment. Then I placed it back in the envelope, sealed it again, and tucked it inside a small wooden box I kept locked in my closet, filled with things Lily could have when she turned 18. Not because I wanted to hide it, but because she didn't need to carry the weight of other people's sins just yet. Not while she was still learning to be a child. Todd never reached out again. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that he moved 2 hours south, started bartending, tried dating someone new, but it didn't last. I didn't care. He became a name that Lily knew once, then forgot, like a song you used to hum but haven't heard in years. And me? I built a life. A real one. I got promoted. Bought a second car. Started teaching Lily how to ride her bike on the gravel path behind the lake house. Some nights I'd sit on the porch and think about the version of me that almost stayed. The woman who almost let herself be small. And I'd whisper to her, "You made it. You did it. We're here." The other night, Lily crawled into bed beside me and asked, "Mom, when I grow up, can I have a house like this?" I smiled, pulled her close. "You can have anything, as long as you remember who you are." So now I'll ask you, the one watching this, or listening, or reading along quietly in your room. If someone came for your life, your peace, your child, would you stay silent? Would you wait for them to stop? Or would you finally stand up? Would you take back what they tried to steal? Or would you give in just to keep things calm? Tell me in the comments. Because I've learned, silence is where people like Todd thrive. But strength? That's where we win.